Get to the table. Game over. Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Wow, so serious.
Roll out.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 105 for February 22nd, 2015, and I'm JD Duran.
And I'm Brendan Cassidy.
Thanks for joining us this week, everyone. We have a great show in store. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into any of that, though, I want to introduce this week's awesome guest. You heard her voice on our extra film this last week when we talked about the wonderful 50 Shades of Grey. But Erin Rizok is back. Erin, thanks for joining us this weekend as well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here once again. If anyone listened to that extra film show, they'll know you from the Do Over podcast. Tell us a little bit about it and where can we find you on the internet?
The Do Over is a wonderful little movie podcast where a panel of movie watchers, some experts, some lay people such as myself that say things like movie good, get together and pick a year of the Academy Awards and decide if they picked the right Best Picture or if they need to do it over. So you can find it at thedoover.com. Do is spelled D-E-W after Jamie Dew, the host of the show. It's in the iTunes store, it's on Stitcher, it's on where people with non-Apple smartphones get their apps.
Good
Google
answer.
Play, things like that, yeah.
And this week, in our little teeny market of Toronto, the Do-Over was just voted in the top 10
Yeah, I
of
saw that.
this little thing we have called BlogTO, which rates everything in Toronto. Like, you can find, like, best falafel or
nice.
best
Movie
furniture
podcast.
store. Yeah, so, yeah.
Very cool, yeah. Definitely go check out the Do-Over. It obviously couldn't be more relevant than right now, as tonight is the Oscars. On this show, we're going to be giving our Oscar predictions. So, definitely go check out the Do-Over. And it was quite interesting because I just guessed it on that show as well, that will hopefully be released kind of soon. But we talked about 1989. And funny enough, later on in the show, I'm going to have a reference to that podcast as well. So definitely go check out the Do-Over. It's amazing. And as I just referenced, we are going to be giving our Oscar predictions on this week's show. So it's going to be a little bit different than a normal show, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great categories to break down before the big show tonight. Before we get into any of that, though, I'll toss it to you first, Erin. How was your guys' week?
Oh, my week's pretty good. Up until a couple of days ago, it was minus 40 here with the wind chill. And that's not like a number that I'm saying to like make it seem bad or to get sympathy. That was the actual with wind chill temperature.
That's not a hyperbole.
yeah, exactly.
And so it's broke and snowed for an entire day. So that's more normal.
That's crazy. It was about -10 here in Kentucky, and it's pretty unfamiliar for the people here, and everyone freaked the hell out. So for Canada, though, that's normal. How was your week, Brendan?
Not too bad, not too bad. First thing I gotta say, though, is that, okay, so the Oscars are tonight, so we have to make it known that when these predictions are posted, we are predicting these beforehand, because everyone might be listening to this show after
they
the
were 100%.
ceremony,
How did they do that?
Yeah, so just want to throw that out there first. The other thing I want to throw out there, this is kind of off topic, but I want to give a huge shout out to, you guys might not know what I'm talking about here, but a huge shout out to all my friends and fellow Penn Staters that are still students at Penn State University in Pennsylvania, because we've got something called Thon going on right now. It's a 46-hour dance marathon raising money for kids with pediatric cancer.
Oh, nice.
And they're just finishing it up now. I was honored to be a dancer my senior year and did the whole 46-hour thing, and that year last year actually, we raised over $12 million for to help out children and other families with a child that either suffered or is suffering from childhood cancer.
Sure.
And that's going on now. The total's just about to be revealed. It's ending very soon. Got some friends out there on the floor. Huge shout out to everyone for all the great work that they're doing. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's such a great cause. Anyone out there haven't heard of it, go to thon.org. You can find out a lot about it. A lot of schools do something like that.
Yeah, sure.
This one is huge. This one's huge, and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Our school did something similar as well at Bowling Green, although you don't want to see me dance for 12 minutes, let alone 46 hours. So
you're not literally dancing though. You're really just you're on the floor. You're no sitting or sleeping for that whole time. Is really what it's the sacrifice you put in to kind of fight for this cause. But it's a great cause.
Yeah, it is.
I'm glad a lot of schools do something like it. It's great.
Yeah, it is very, very cool.
I think that's awesome. My nephew he's a little boy. He's 5 years old. He turned 5 on Valentine's Day. He's a pediatric cancer survivor.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Really?
Very, very cool. It's a really great cause.
Well, good for him, yeah.
For my week, it was a little interesting. As I mentioned, the weather here was a little bit nuts, and I don't understand why Kentucky does this, but every single year, snow and ice is like a foreign concept to them. It's like they've never seen it before. It's the very first thing, or the very first time they've ever seen it, and so unprepared, and no one knows how to drive in it. It is quite an interesting thing that happens every winter, and it's quite funny. But since the weather was really terrible this week, it was a really fun experience. And I didn't have to work all week because they cancel for everything if it even threatens to snow.
Oh my God.
So
oh my gosh.
What
a joke.
I know. Don't even get me started. I know. It's crazy. But anyway, all that being said, we have a lot to talk about with the Oscars, as Brendan alluded to. This is beforehand, so we actually don't know what happened. But let's get into it.
And here we go.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, 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 oh. Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Everyday women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us.
You're listening to the InSession Film Podcast. This is 105, and now we're going to be giving our Oscar predictions. We got a lot of fun categories to get into. The first categories that we want to talk about is the music categories. And first, let's start off with Best Original Song. And for Best Original Song, we have Everything is Awesome from the Lego Movie, Glory from Selma, Grateful from Beyond the Lights, I'm Not Gonna Miss You from Glenn Campbell, I'll Be Me, and Lost Stars from the movie Begin Again. Toss it to you first, Erin. What do you think about this category? Who do you think is going to win?
Well, I'm going to say a caveat that I swear I'm not going to be like this for all of the categories, but I've barely heard of most of these movies. Let alone the songs, and that's pretty. Sure. And so, what I want to win is Everything is Awesome, because the song is awesome, and it's like the only. I'm pretty sure it's the only place in all the categories, unless like animated short or something, that Canada is represented. So I got to go for it. Like,
there you go.
My girls, Tegan and Sarah, they co-wrote that song. I don't know if they get the credit in the Oscar noms, because all that stuff is weird, and like, who doesn't want to see Andy Samberg win an Oscar?
That is true. It usually goes to, I think, the person that wrote the music and the lyrics is usually who gets credit for the wins, but I agree, Tegan and Sarah in that, as well as Andy Samberg. It would be pretty fun. They'll at least probably show up on stage if they win, I'm sure.
I think so. Yeah. So, and I don't know what they have planned for the songs, but I hope all of them, and also Chris Pratt, like, get together and sing it. And yeah, so that's my pick for what is going to win and what I want to win.
All right, what about you, Brendan?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I mean, first off, I think that the winner is going to be the song "Glory" from Selma. They also won the Golden Globe, and I think they even a few other ones on their belt as well. I think they even had some Grammy nominations. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that is going to win, performed by John Legend and Common. Having said that, I'd be okay with either that or Everything Is Awesome winning. Those would be my picks if I chose one or the other. Maybe with a slight edge for Everything Is Awesome because it is so different and obscure. And it's just so much fun. And it's so addicting. Like you hear like 5 seconds of it, it's stuck in your head for like maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Big time,
but having said that, I do think the song Glory from Selma is a beautiful song, and I think perfectly sums up the movie. And strangely, the hip hop aspect of it actually worked for me. Surprisingly, because of the time period of the movie where hip hop music wasn't even prevalent. And I do think that's going to win though, especially for how snubbed Selma was. I think the Academy likes to deviate wins to all the major films in some way by giving them at least some decent or big award. And that's where I think they're going to go with Selma because it was so snubbed. I think they'll give it at least Best Original Song.
And that's quite interesting, Brendan, because I think it's that reasoning exactly why I think Everything Is Awesome could win, because there's so much controversy and talk about the Lego Movie being snubbed from Best Animated Film that this is the only thing that it has going for it and why people may vote for it. And all that being,
that's a good point. Yeah.
And all that being said, though, I do agree, and my prediction would be Glory for all the reasons you talked about. I love how it fit there at the ending and how it's used, and the song itself is just fantastic. I love listening to it, but I would not be surprised if Everything Is Awesome did win just because of the snub of the Lego Movie. But the other songs themselves, I think are fine. I didn't see Beyond the Lights, but I have listened to the song, and the song Grateful is okay. I'm Not Gonna Miss You. I didn't really see that documentary. I don't really know much about Glenn Campbell, honestly. So that's not one that really speaks to me at all. But I did love that Begin Again got a little love here from the Academy because I thought the music was so great in that film. I love the song Lost Stars. Adam Levine performs it really wonderfully. And so
I agree.
I love that they did get a little love here. I don't think that those three songs has any chance of winning. I do think ultimately it's going to go to Glory and Selma, but still an interesting list here, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys, let's move on to my favorite category of them all. We're going to Best Original Score, and I've been trying to lobby for a long time for the Academy to just lend this to me because it seems like I'm the only person, or at least one of 5 people on the entire planet that gives a shit about this category. So I wish they would lend it to me. All that being said, let's talk about the nominees. We have Alexander Desplat getting a lot of love this year with 2 nominations. He got nominated for The Grand Budapest Hotel and The Imitation Game. We also have my boy Hans Zimmer with Interstellar, Gary Yersin for Mr. Turner, and Johan Johansson, what a name there, with The Theory of Everything. Erin, what do you think about this category?
I think this one's tough, actually, to pick Mr. Turner. And,
Sure.
you know, when someone is nominated in the same category twice, it's often a killer for them because it splits the
votes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Theory of Everything is going to win, Johan Johansson. And I don't have an especially strong feeling, if I'm being honest, about
you and the entire Academy as well.
Yeah, I would really be happy with. I don't know. I'm not as invested in it as you are, JD.
Sure, most people aren't. So I get it.
Yeah, and I feel like I need to save what my favorite movie of the year is in here, right? So I don't know if that's giving away too much, so I would vote for it, but I feel like I should save that for the end of the show.
Okay, that's fair enough. What about you? Yeah, what about you, Brendan?
So first off, I'll say is that of those 5 people on the planet, I think 2 of them are on this podcast right now.
True, yeah.
But also having said that, I'm very about this category because if I had to pick my 5 favorite scored films of the year, I don't think any of them are even nominated. Because I feel like a lot of my favorites were either disqualified, like for example Birdman,
yeah.
Or some of my other favorites were in the animated category, and I think some of those scores were totally ignored. But having said that, of the nominees, the one I think is going to win, I think it's almost a sure thing. I think it's going to go to Johan Johansson for Theory of Everything, just because his name is freaking awesome.
It is.
But it was a very good score, and probably in many ways one of the more distinct ones of the bunch. You could make the same argument for Hans Zimmer, but I think Jóhann Jóhannsson's going to win this year. If I had to pick which one I would prefer to see win, I really liked the score for The Imitation Game. I thought that was one of Alexander Desplat's best scores, and if I had to pick one of those five, my personal pick would have been for The Imitation Game, to be honest. It had a very kind of computer-esque kind of tone. I don't know what it was, but it sounded very digital, but it also fit the time period. It somehow was able to bridge that gap, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah. But having said that, I think Theory of Everything's got this in the bag.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Brennan, especially when you're talking about, the nominations here. Certainly 3 of these 5 wouldn't be in my top 5, although I did have Alexander Desplat's The Grand Budapest Hotel and Hans Zimmer's Interstellar in my top 5 when we did our award show a few weeks back. So I really did love those scores. I do agree with you, though, Brennan. The Imitation Game isn't going to get as much love just because when you think of Wes Anderson, and especially lately his work with Alexander Desplat, that kind of music just has a lot of flair to it. It's very stylish and it really stands out, and a lot of people tend to go for that. But what he did with The Imitation Game, I really, really worked for that film as well. Mr. Turner is one I just don't think a ton of people saw. I do think it's a really fantastic score, certainly fits that world really, really well. And my favorite score, as I mentioned on that award show, Brendan, was Hans Zimmer's Interstellar. And it's not just because it's Hans Zimmer and I love him. I didn't really like Interstellar all that much. It's just not a film that really worked for me, but the score was not a problem for me. I think what Hans Zimmer was doing with that film, one, it was a little different and unique for him specifically. And I think if anything, it enhanced that film where the rest of it was falling apart for me.
Endurance rotation is 67, 68 RPM.
Okay, get ready to match our spin with the retro thrusters.
It's not possible.
No, it's necessary.
Endurance is hitting stratosphere.
She's got no heat shield.
Paige, you ready?
Ready. Cooper, this is no time for caution.
So it was doing a lot of things all at once, and I loved what he was doing musically. I loved the organ melodies and just the intensity he was able to bring with really just working with a little, I thought was fantastic. All that said, The Theory of Everything, my least favorite of the 5 nominees here, is going to win. And nothing against Jóhann Jóhannsson. I think it worked for that film, but that score doesn't really stand out to me a ton. I think just like the rest of that film, it's just Oscar baity, just stuffingness. It just doesn't really stand out to me in any way, but because it has that Oscar bait feel to it, and because I think he won the Globe for this category as well, I think that's where the votes are going to go, which is unfortunate because I think there's some better work here.
Which kind of brings up a question I have before we move on quickly. Is I'm only picking The Theory of Everything for winning because if you look at all the other expert predictions and all the other hype around things, that's just where everyone's pointing their fingers toward. But other than that, why is this one the front runner? I mean, I don't understand based on the score for it why this one is getting that attention. Because it is it's a good score. It works. There are some neat touches to it. There are melodic touches that are memorable. But having said that, it's a very by-the-numbers score and a very by-the-numbers movie. At least I personally think so. So I'm very curious as it might be because they're just trying to split up the major wins between all the other major nominated films, which the Academy always loves to do, which I'll get to a little bit later when we predict our major categories. But I feel like that's the only reason why. It's because Theory of Everything might not get a lot of other big wins. So it's like, oh, let's give it best score then. So it is represented in some way. It's
it's a good point. It makes me wonder if they got the 4 that they wanted and they were like, well, we need a 5th one. We're not going to consider really anything outside of the major quote unquote Oscar kind of film. So let's just throw that in there. It's kind of how it feels to me. This category is a great example of how when you create something that is Oscar baity, it just plays into that stigma and why people can't stand it, because the Academy just keeps biting on it. If the Academy wants to get rid of that stigma and what people think about them, things like this just have to stop. And it's unfortunate because it's my favorite category. And once again, the Academy is going to it up. So
you had to bleep yourself out there twice already.
I know. Don't worry. I was kind of talking with some people off air about this, and I was like, some of this stuff is going to heat me up. I already have my bleep button all ready to rock and roll because I'm going to need it for sure.
You're going to get a workout from that, man.
I know. Oh, what are you going to do? All right, well, let's move on and let's talk about some of the writing categories. Let's move on to adapted screenplay first. And the nominations for this category is American Sniper, The Imitation Game, Inherent Vice, The Theory of Everything, and Whiplash. Erin, what do you think about best writing for adapted screenplay?
This is one of my favorite categories. I love the writing categories.
Yeah.
Although I don't get super worked up about anything except if someone, is dressed horribly awful. I'll get really worked up about that.
Yeah.
Because you have so much access to everything. What's wrong with you?
Go overboard.
Look in the mirror. Have someone take a picture of you before you do songs.
Yeah, don't you have friends?
Yeah. Fire your stylist. Anyways, I just like with the best original song, the movie that I want to win, and the movie that I think that is going to win is the same. I think Whiplash is going to win. I loved Whiplash. Wasn't my favorite movie of the year, but it was up there. And I don't even know what the source material is. If I'm being honest, I just see it in the
the whole Whiplash being in this category is kind of a joke because the only thing it's adapted from is Damien Chazelle's short film. Like he made a short film of the same story, and they consider that adapted, which is kind of a joke, but whatever.
Oh. Well, maybe it won't win then.
Yeah,
it really should be in the original screenplay.
It really should be.
It really should be.
Yeah.
My backup one is The Imitation Game. I don't know if is there a really clear front runner? I don't know as much about the acting categories and Best Picture, Best Director. I feel like really strongly like it's obvious.
Yeah.
For most of those, who's going to win, and I'm not as researched up on these other categories, but that's what I think. Maybe Imitation Game is going to take it. I did not like American Sniper. So if it wins no awards, that's
good with you.
I'm good with that. And I haven't seen Inherent Vice because we champion the little out there movies here in Toronto, and that was in the theaters for like 6 full seconds. I don't know.
Yeah, same here. But don't worry, if anyone's a champion of that film, it is moi.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it, and so I'm going to go with Whiplash. Maybe The Imitation Game.
All right, Brendan, what do you got, man?
Well, Erin, I do think that you did pick the two front runners for this category. I think it's going to go to The Imitation Game, though. Again, for my reasons, where I feel like the Academy loves to split up their honoring of awards between all of the major nominated films. And when you compare Whiplash to The Imitation Game, I'd say The Imitation Game is more of a heavy hitter because it's nominated for 9 Oscars instead of 2 or 3 or something like that. And I think that's why it's going to go to Graham Moore for The Imitation Game. I just think it's an easier pick for them. I do think Whiplash is the better script, obviously, and I think there may even be some love go for it because of the controversy we were kind of talking about earlier, JD, about some of the other categories, is that it's controversial that it's in this category when it probably should really be in the other writing category. So they might give it to it out of consolation. I don't know. But I do think it's going to go to The Imitation Game. I think that is the front runner. But I do think Whiplash is one of the best scripts of the year, bar none.
This is one of the most interesting categories and maybe the hardest one for me personally, because when I look at this category, one, as you were just referencing, Brendan, with Whiplash, it doesn't really belong here, for one. With Inherent Vice, the one thing that everyone complained about with that movie was its incoherency of its plot and the script, which is so ironic and funny that it was nominated for the Oscars for this category. I obviously love that film and what it was doing. And then I would argue some of the worst parts of The Theory of Everything and American Sniper is its scripts. And just the direction that those films go. from a narrative standpoint is the things that drag those films down for me. So by default, I have to pick The Imitation Game. So I don't know. I would personally pick Inherent Vice if it was me, but that is not going to win by any stretch of the imagination here. I would like to see Whiplash win this category, and maybe it could. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it's going to come down though to Whiplash and The Imitation Game, but for me, this is maybe the hardest one to predict. I mean, I feel like the Academy could go with any of these, and I wouldn't be surprised, I don't think.
I would actually like to see Paul Thomas Anderson win just to piss people off.
Exactly. Yeah.
He should have won multiple times before already. So, but that's not why I'm saying that he should win, because I hate when the Academy does that.
But they do that all the time anyway.
They do that, yeah. When their time is
category this year.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna get to that eventually. Yeah, I know when you're talking about, Aaron.
Yeah.
But having said that, I would love to see Inherent Vice win just to piss people off, because so many people hated the script for it. But having said that, I agree with you, JD. Those two films I think are the front runners, and it's going to come down to one of them.
What a crazy category that is. Let's move on to original screenplay. And the nominations for original screenplay is Whiplash. Oh, wait. No, it's not, because that's a joke. We have Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. We have Boyhood, Foxcatcher, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and Nightcrawler. Thank God it's on this list. What about you, Erin? What do you think about this category?
I think this category is pretty strong, actually. I liked all of these movies, and I thought Foxcatcher is based on a true story, but the other ones, they're just all so original, the ideas.
Sure.
So I think generally it's very strong. Going with what Brandon was saying about splitting up the awards amongst the movies that the Academy likes, so I think that The Grand Budapest Hotel is going to win here. I think Wes Anderson's going to win. I think this is going to be the award that The Grand Budapest Hotel gets, and Birdman and Boyhood will be honored in other ways.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I think. But I loved The Grand Budapest Hotel so much, so I really wanted to win all the awards. That's not going to happen. So I think it should win here, and I think it will win here.
Have you ever been questioned by the authorities?
Yes, on one occasion.
What?
I was arrested and tortured by the rebel militia after the Desert Uprising.
Right. Well, you know the drill then. Zip it.
Of course.
You never heard the word Van Hoytel in your life.
Got it.
Okay, let's go. How may we serve you, gentlemen? Ah, Inspector Hank.
By order of the Commissioner of Police, Subroca Province, I hereby place you under arrest for the murder of Madame Celine Villeneuve de Goffin Taxis.
I knew there was something fishy. We never got the cause of death. She's been murdered. And you think I did it. Hey! Stop!
Although part of me wants to see Dan Futterman go up there and accept an award, because when I hear his name and see him, all I think about is when he used to be on Judging Amy like a million years ago, which that's a really obscure reference, I guess. But every time I see his name, I'm like, is that the guy that used to be an actor that was on Judging Amy? And I think that it is. I think it's the same guy. But yeah, so would win, should win, will win Grand Budapest Hotel.
All right, what about you, Brennan?
So I'll keep it short because I'm kind of in the same boat there. Whether or not what I think I should win might be a little different, but I do think it's going to go to Grand Budapest Hotel this year. This is, again, you could pick two films that I think it's going to come down between. It's going to come down between Grand Budapest Hotel and Birdman for this category. It's going to be one of those two, and I think it's going to really depend on the major wins with how Birdman and Boyhood are going to be honored, exactly like you were saying, Aaron. I completely agree. But I also think when we're talking about, we'll get to this category a little bit later as well, when they talk about the Academy wanting to honor certain people because they're past due. I think the Academy's dying to give an Oscar to Wes Anderson. I think they're finally recognizing the work that he's been doing. I mean, granted, I'm not a huge fan of Wes Anderson. He's very hit or miss for me, but that doesn't mean I think his films are bad. They're just not quite for me. But I do recognize that they are good for what they are. And having said that, I think the Academy feels the same way, that they're recognizing that he has talent that should be recognized. And I think the Grand Budapest Hotel, I think that win that it's going to have this year, the major win, is going to be the writing. And I think that's going to walk away with the win for original screenplay.
I think if you were to switch out Foxcatcher with Whiplash, this might be my favorite category of them all, arguably. I would absolutely love it. I think it's a really strong category. I completely agree with you guys that it's going to go to Grand Budapest Hotel. It's going to be the one they're going to win. And I think this won the Writers Guild Award for Best Original Screenplay as well, just not that long ago. So it has some momentum going into the Oscars tonight. And ultimately, I do think that Wes Anderson is finally going to get that win. And I love Wes Anderson. I'm a little bit different than you, Brendan. I typically pretty much love everything this guy puts on screen. So
sure,
I'm personally really, really excited and going to be anticipating him finally getting a win, and a win amongst these other nominations is pretty strong. I mean, it would be a really, really great win because I love all the other films here aside from Foxcatcher, but really, really good stuff. So I'm excited to see that. But all right, guys, let's move on to the last category before we move into our first break for the show. And we're going to talk about the best foreign language film. And the nominations are the Polish film Ida, the Russian film Leviathan, Tangerines, the Estonian film Timbuktu, and Wild Tales, the Argentinian film, rounds out the top 5. Erin, what do you think about this category?
I have not seen too many of these. And by not too many, I mean 0.
All righty. Just pick out of a hat. What do you got?
I have thoughts because people write about it, right? So
Sure.
I have some thoughts. If I get to see these before the Oscars, it's because I happen to see it at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Sure,
That's usually, or if it's a humongous movie, right? Like if it's a huge movie, like Life is Beautiful, for example, like I'll have seen it. This year at the film festival, I saw the New Zealand entry and something, I can't remember. Anyway, I think that Ida, is it Ida or Ida?
I think it's Ida.
It's actually Ida, yeah, but we always called it Ida.
We've always
as
called
well.
it Ida, yeah.
But it is Ida.
So the internet tells me that Ida or Leviathan is going to win,
Yeah,
like the little
sure.
bit that I've
Yep.
read. I just can't imagine a bunch of Americans voting for a Russian movie. Like maybe that's like super outdated mode of thinking, but anyway.
No, I wouldn't be surprised in that logic.
Yeah, so my Polish roots also are, and my big Academy Award watching buddy, she's Polish also. So I'm going to go with, yeah.
Great motivation. I love it.
Yeah.
So, all right, Brendan, if you pick anything else besides the one that I'm going to vote for, I'm going to come across the internet and slap you. So what do you got?
So I'm going to say another one just to see if you can physically slap me via the internet. I've seen one of these films, and it was in my top 10 of the year, and it's the one I also think is going to win, and that's Ida. Love this film. But the reason why I think it's going to win is the same logic you can apply to the best animated feature category in some cases. Because in the past, you would sometimes see a Pixar film also nominated for not just animated film, but also for a screenplay and maybe even a Best Picture nomination, which automatically means it's going to win that category.
Yeah.
In foreign language film, Ida is the only one of these that has another nomination, and that's for cinematography.
Yep.
So I think by default, they're going to give it to Ida.
You stole my thunder, man. That was exactly what I was going to say. I have seen a little bit of Leviathan. I didn't get a chance to finish it. I haven't seen the other 3, but like you, Brendan, Ida made my top 10 of 2014 as well. And I was going to argue the same thing. It has another nomination, and you don't see that a lot with this category. So just because of that alone, Ida is definitely going to take it away, and deservingly so, I think. I mean, I haven't seen the other ones. I'm sure they're fantastic, and that's why they're here. Of course, I would like to see something like Force Majeure get a nomination. I absolutely loved and adored that film as well. But all that being said, Ida, I still think, should take this home, and it probably will. So very much looking forward to that. All right, guys. Well, we have a lot more to dive into. Before we do that, though, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, Brendan, so on this show this week, we're talking about the Oscars, which will hand out some pretty big and significant awards, making some films some big winners tonight. And just like the Oscars, I gotta say, the first-time watchers, they are huge winners in our book.
I would agree with that, and they're certainly golden, too.
They're
definitely
golden,
as well.
yeah.
Not like Golden Girls, but like gold, Oscar gold. Let's
they're
go
more
that
like
way.
that statue that was making rounds on the internet where the statue was laying down snorting cocaine, and they're fun. Is kind of like that.
So you're saying they're drug addicts. Okay, I get it.
I'm just
Tim's
saying,
going to love you for
they're
that.
like golden statues that are not boring, but more fun.
Oh, okay. Okay. I get that. And I would totally agree with that because they're a huge supporter of our show and a great show, a podcast that everyone out there, you guys got to check it out. Hosted by Tim, Walter, and Romano, and we trust you. They're not druggies, but they are a lot of fun and golden, we'll say that. And they certainly know their movies, too.
Absolutely. Their banter is amazing, and it's a very entertaining show, hopefully like what the Oscars show tonight will be like.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, too.
Hope
but
so.
They're, you can definitely make the argument that first-time watchers, their show is always entertaining.
They're
So
very
there's-
entertaining, yeah.
Yeah,
Very good
absolutely.
stuff.
And what's also unique about them, though, is that every week they'll pick a film that neither one of them have seen. So it creates a real fresh perspective and fresh discussion on it, and they'll also talk about other movies and trailers they've seen and news items like that. So really good, fresh, and open discussion. Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They give some great recommendations at the end of the show, which I would highly pay attention to. The show overall, it's smart, it's fluid, it's easy to listen to. They're close, and you can tell they just have a lot of fun together on the show. So all that being said, Brendan, where can you find this awesome podcast on the internet?
Well, there are a couple ways. You can check them out at firsttimewatchers.blogspot.com, and you can also hit them up on Twitter at First Time Watchers, and also on Facebook. Just go through First Time Watchers and search it there, and there you go. You'll find them right away.
You can also subscribe to their podcast on iTunes, and while you're there, please leave them a review. I promise it's going to be absolutely worth your time. Hopefully, like what the Oscars will be tonight, we shall see. Again, first-time watchers, definitely recommend them. Go check them out.
All right, you're listening to the InSession Film Podcast. This is our Oscar prediction show, and now we're going to continue phase 2 of our nominee. See what I did there? Kind of like a Marvel thing. It's
I like it.
phase 2 of our Oscar predictions and thoughts here. So, continuing on, we're going to start off with Best Documentary Feature, and the nominees are Citizen 4, Finding Vivian Maier, Last Days in Vietnam, The Salt of the Earth, and I'm going to try and pronounce this one, Virunga, I think is what it's called.
That's what I would go with.
Well, that's what we're going with now. So I'll toss to you first, Erin. Do you have any thoughts about this category here?
I do. I think I'm feeling like very confident, I guess, since almost all of these movies that I want to win and that I think is going to win is one and the same. So I want Citizen 4 to win. I think Citizen 4 is going to win, and I want it to win because I like to champion the female filmmakers when possible, since they are generally underrepresented at this particular shindig. And, you know, the topic is just so timely.
Sure.
So that's my pick. And it's got like a 98% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that is ridiculously high, although documentaries seem to do well. But yeah, so that's my pick. I don't have deep thoughts about it, but...
Sure. How about you, JD?
Well, I'm going to go with the unpopular vote here, and I hope that I don't offend you, Erin, with these comments, but I do think that Citizen 4 is ultimately going to win. I don't think it's close at all. I think this is far and away the winner. But if I was going to vote myself, I would not vote for Citizen 4, although I think it's a pretty good documentary. My problem with it is not so much what the documentary is about. I think what you're saying, Erin, it's very timely. I think from an historical context, it's really fascinating when we're talking about these events that unfolded in 2013 or something like that. And to see these events unfold from Edward Snowden's point of view in this hotel room in China, I believe, or wherever he was, I think just with the authentic, genuine drama that would have been happened naturally, I think it was fantastic. From a filmmaking standpoint, which is ultimately what we're voting for, or should be voting for anyway, I think it fails. I think once we get to the hotel room in China, from a filmmaking standpoint, I thought it was actually pretty boring. I was not really compelled in any way from a dramatic filmmaking standpoint. I really think that the filmmakers here, Laura Poitras, I think she dropped the ball on that level. But from the historical angle of it, and just the natural compellingness of it, and because it's timely, that's why I was invested, because I wanted to see what was happening from their point of view with these events. But from a filmmaking standpoint, I was not compelled. So my vote would actually be Virunga, which I think is also timely, also very important, much more beautiful in terms of its cinematography and its scope. And I was dramatically compelled the entire time. And I think from a filmmaking standpoint, it does it way, way better than Citizen4, in my opinion. But all that being said, I don't think Citizen4 is... it's not a terrible movie. There's just certain parts in the middle that I think become mundane, especially if you're not invested in the context of what's going on in that film. I know that's the unpopular opinion, but that would be my vote, my take on this category.
And those are all pretty interesting points. So I'm gonna make this very brief, and because I haven't seen any of these, so
all right.
So I'll tentatively agree with your points, JD, because they sounded valid, but I haven't seen anything to back it up. But
Sure.
I will say I do think Citizen4 is going to win only because of the hype that I've been hearing via internet hype and things like that.
It's not even close. It's certainly going to be Citizen4. I think if life itself was in this conversation, and it should be, then I think we would have a 2-horse race, but it's not in here, and I have no idea why. Maybe its votes were split for some reason, but Life itself is certainly one of the best and should be here.
Yeah, and that's one I have seen, and I love that film. It's unfortunate that it's not here, but these 5 I haven't seen, so I can't offer opinions. But just based on hype alone, I do think it'll go to Citizen4.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of push for it.
On the do-over, we did a short Oscar show. I don't think it's been put up yet, and I brought up how, like, why isn't Life itself nominated? And the people around the table that were not me and write about the movies for a job, some of them thought it was a bit self-congratulatory for critics to have a movie about a critic. Anyway, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it might be why it's not nominated. Nothing new came out of the movie. That's what they thought. Like, you didn't learn.
That makes a compelling argument to a degree, but when I see films like Birdman being nominated, and it's essentially doing the same thing with calling out Hollywood to a degree, it's hard
just
for me
fictionalized,
to hard for me to buy that argument, although I understand it.
Yeah, and I think that's I get the argument too, but I don't think it's well supported in this year's nominees when you got something that does the same thing being nominated, just like you said, JD. Yeah. All right, so continuing on, we're going to get to one of my favorite categories. That's Best Achievement in Cinematography. And the nominees are Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman.
You can stop there.
I was waiting for that. Although, you kind of ruined my thunder because I want to do something funny here.
Okay, go for it.
Because I'm going to list the nominees anyway. I mean, yes, you could stop there, and I think we'll all agree with that, but I'm going to say the nominees anyway. So, okay, Emmanuel Lubezki for Birdman, Robert D. Yeoman for The Grand Budapest Hotel, Roger Deakins for Unbroken, 2 Polish names I'm not going to pronounce for Aida, and then Dick Poop for Mr. Turner. Had to go with Dick Poop because of what he did there. It's Dick Pope. So do we even need to toss this one? Because I feel like it's kind of obvious. The only way I see Birdman or Emmanuel Lubezki not winning is because he won for Gravity last year, which is utter bullshit. If he doesn't win because of that reason, it just shows how political and meaningless that the categories are, not just for this one, but what he was able to achieve in Birdman is just phenomenal. I think he should win. I think he's going to win. What do you guys think? Any other thoughts on that?
I totally agree, and I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo your thoughts, Brendan and Erin. I mean, Emmanuel Lubezki should take this home. And another category that they should take it home along the same lines that isn't even nominated for is editing. I literally think the voters thought it was literally one take. How this didn't get nominated for editing is beyond me. But in terms of its cinematography, it's gorgeous. It's not just a gimmick to me. I think it's used amazingly well within the film to kind of enhance the kind of backstage claustrophobic feel that these characters were going through. I thought it was fantastic. Grand Budapest Hotel is an interesting one because I do think the cinematography is great for that film, but I almost wonder if the production design that makes it more beautiful than the cinematography. Although this is never going to happen, but if Ida for some reason did overtake Birdman, I'd almost be okay with it just because you'll never see it again, most likely ever in our lifetime. But Birdman for sure should win this, hands down.
Yeah, and Ida would actually be probably actually, when we did our top 3 for best cinematography, I put Ida first, just because you could pause any moment in that film and hang it up on the wall, and it's a great picture frame. It's a great painting.
Exactly.
It's that good. But for technical achievement alone, you gotta give it to Lubezki here. I mean,
it's incredible.
It's absolutely insane what he was able to do,
Yeah.
and I cannot wait to see what he's going to do again working with Inarritu this year for The Revenant.
Yeah.
That's The Revenant. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, that looks interesting.
It's going to be awesome.
Some neat things.
And I think it's interesting with this category too is of all the names here and the films that people are talking about with this category, no one is talking about Roger Deakins, which is insane when it comes to this category. Like, he's not even lumped in with, he may win or he possibly could win. Like, he's not even on the radar, and that's just insane. And probably the only good thing about Unbroken, quite honestly.
Yeah, but it made the film look very generically polished, like an Oscar bait kind of looking film. So I don't think it's a warranted nomination. It's a great looking film, but Roger Deakins has done much better work in the past, I think, especially with his westerns. Like, if you look at movies like No Country for Old Men or The Assassination of Jesse James, like those are he should have won for all of those, I think. But
I would
made that Canadian wilderness look real good in The Assassination of Jesse James.
I love that movie. It was beautiful,
and that's where they're filming The Revenant right now, is in Canada.
Yeah,
as we speak.
It's where you got to go. We got the good tax breaks.
Absolutely.
The biggest crowd I've ever seen at the Toronto International Film Festival ever was an Indian movie. That doesn't matter. The second most was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie going into the premiere of The Assassination of Jesse James. You could not get down the street.
Wow.
Anyway, totally offside.
I love Brad Pitt too. What are you going to do?
All right, so continuing on with the next category in Phase 2, and ironically, there's a Marvel movie in this list.
I love it.
We're going with Best Animated Feature Film of the Year, and the nominees are the Lego. Oh wait, that's not here.
Wait.
Darn it!
Oh man.
So what's really nominated? Big Hero 6. There's the Marvel movie. The Box Trolls, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Song of the Sea, and The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Toss it to you first, Erin. What are your thoughts here for Best Animated Film?
Until the nominations came out, I hadn't even heard of the last two. My knowledge of animated movies is basically directed by my 5-year-old. So
nice.
If it wasn't on the side of a bus here, I probably haven't heard of it. I want, and I think I'm at item with myself again. How to Train Your Dragon 2 to win.
You're a good girl, Erin. You're a good girl.
Thank you. Thanks. And I loved the first one. I love the second one. It just goes to show you a sequel can win awards.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the only thing I'll add is that I didn't see the Box Trolls because for me and my husband and my daughter to go see a movie that's 3 tickets plus a babysitter for the younger one, and for this is like $125 fare Canadian. Anyways, so they told me that it was terrible, and I don't know that it's necessarily for kids, but they did not like it. So I'm going with How to Train Your Dragon 2 for should win and what I want to win.
Well, don't worry, Erin. Brendan and I can certainly hold down the fort. This is a category that we really own on a lot of levels. I did see the Box Trolls, and I did like it. I think it's certainly worth the nomination to a degree. I do think that the Lego movie is better than the Box Trolls and Big Hero 6, so it is a little disappointing to not see it at least nominated here.
Yeah.
That being said, and I've said this plenty of times on our show, I think the Lego movie was the 4th best animated movie of last year. Arguably the 5th if you want to include The Wind Rises, because I would put that above the Lego movie as well. But before I get into any other thoughts, Brendan, you and I and DJ were talking a little bit about this off air before we did our bonus content for this week. We're doing a new Nerd Out segment this week. And there was this article that was released, and it was kind of polling, I guess, some voters of the Academy. And they were explaining why they chose certain films or certain people for the categories. And when it came to Best Animated Feature, there was a certain anonymous voter of the Academy that said the following, and I quote, and I'm not bleeping myself out here because it's a quote, but this is exactly what he said. He said, for the Lego Movie to not be nominated over these two obscure frickin' Chinese fucking things that nobody ever frickin' saw, that's my biggest bitch. End quote. So first of all, that is the most ignorant, racist horse I have ever heard in my life. Because first of all, Princess Kaguya is Japanese. It's not even Chinese. And Song of the Sea, which is the other one he's referencing, is an Irish film. It's like not even close. And for him to just spout out, like, those are the kind of people that are voting for these categories. That's the Academy. And maybe he's an outlier, and maybe most everyone else in this isn't thinking like that. But to know that there are people out there in the Academy that exist like this is mind-boggling to me.
I don't know why you're surprised.
I'm not. Well, it's like I'm holding
white
out.
Men.
I know a bunch of old white guys. I know
old white guys.
No. Well,
is there a single non-white actor nominated this year?
No, they're all white.
Like, come on
all
now.
White.
This is.
Yeah.
And Selma was snubbed generally.
Yeah.
In this year of all years for a movie like that. I don't know why you're surprised.
I guess it's because I was trying to hold out a little bit of hope that there's good people in the Academy, but maybe not. And here's the thing, I guess, in defense of that, is maybe he's an outlier because out of 7,000 members in the Academy, which is a lot of members, Song of the Sea and The Tale of the Princess Kaguya was still nominated. So enough people saw it that they voted it over the Lego Movie, which was obviously very popular here in the States. So it's hard to really say, but I saw that quote and it absolutely blew my mind. So anyway, I do like these nominations overall. And like you said, Erin, How to Train Your Dragon will and should take home this award. It was in my top 5, or at least my top 10 of 2014. I absolutely love it for a lot of different reasons. I know, Brendan, your pick is slightly different than mine, but even if it does go to The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, I'm not going to be crying a whole lot because I love that film as well and did make my top 30 of the year. But I surely want How to Train Your Dragon 2. I would still pick it over Princess Kaguya. One of the best sequels of all time, not just animated films. So How to Train Your Dragon, incredible, should win this easily.
I think How to Train Your Dragon 2 is the Empire Strikes Back of animated films. I think it is the greatest animated sequel ever made.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Toy Stories 2 and 3. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, though.
I'd be happy to see it win.
He's beautiful. Oh, I've never seen a Night Fury this close. He might very well be the last of his kind. And look, he's your age. Wow. Oh, no wonder you get along so well. Unretractable teeth. Incredible. How did you manage?
I found him in the woods. He was shot down and wounded.
And what of this? Did Drago or his trappers do this too?
Oh, yeah. Well, crazy thing is, I'm actually the one who shot him down. Hey, it's okay though. He got me back, right, bud? You couldn't save all of me, could you? You just had to make it even. So, peg leg.
I mean, obviously, if you know those out there listening who remember our top 10 show, I did put The Tale of the Princess Kaguya as my favorite film of 2014. So that is where I'm have a special place for,
of course.
Which makes those freaking comments that you're talking about so offensive to me.
It is because I can't believe the kind of lengths that they'll go to. No wonder this was anonymous because this guy might not be alive right now.
I know it's ridiculous. I don't want to say anything for the sake of you having to overwork yourself
with the bleep
button. and we talked heavily about that yesterday. Yeah. So, but I completely agree with you. It's utter bullshit with those kind of comments that you'd see there.
I know, it's crazy.
For how much I love Princess Kaguya, I think it's one of Studio Ghibli's very best films. And if it is their last film, like it might be, it's a great swan song to go out on. But what's interesting is that I think that this 2014 was one of the very best years for animated films ever, without even Pixar. A film from Pixar. Yeah. No Pixar here, because
incredible.
Because Princess Kaguya was my favorite of the year. How to Train Your Dragon 2 was in my top 5. And yet the Lego Movie, which isn't nominated, unfortunately, was in my top 10 of the year as well.
Sure.
I mean, it was a great year for animated
and
film.
if you want to include The Wind Rises, which came out in February here, that made my top 30 of the year as well.
That was in my top 20. Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I completely agree, but it was it's definitely very offensive to hear those kind of words like that. It's just that bad. But having said that, I do agree. I think that How to Train Your Dragon 2 has got this in the bag. I don't see anything else winning.
Yeah, I mean, and it won, not only won the Globes, but it also won the Annie Awards as well, meaning that the animation industry picked it over the Lego Movie, which was a high runner for the Annie Awards as well, but the industry picked it over, or picked How to Train Your Dragon 2 over Lego Movie as well. So I think that says a lot about the kind of film that How to Train Your Dragon 2 is.
Yeah, I think it's a sure thing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so getting to the last category in this phase, probably my favorite category, that's Best Achievement in Directing. And the nominees are Richard Linklater for Boyhood, Alejandro González Iñárritu for Birdman, Bennett Miller for Foxcatcher, Wes Anderson for The Grand Budapest Hotel, and Morton Tilden for The Imitation Game. Toss it to you first, Aaron. What are your thoughts here? Who do you want to see win? Who do you think should win? Anything like that?
I think this is I think it's getting into really interesting stuff when you get to directing. And I actually think it's really hard to talk about the directing award so far away from the best picture, like in the order that we're talking about them.
I completely agree.
Without revealing too much. But anyway, we're here. So I think that Richard Linklater is going to win.
Samantha, how was your week? I don't know, Dad, it was kind of tough. Billy and Ellen broke up, and Ellen's kind of mad at me because she saw me talking to Billy in the cafeteria. And you remember that sculpture I was working on? Well, it was a unicorn, and the horn broke off, so now it's a zebra, okay? But I still think I'm going to get an A, right? Mason, how was your week? Well, Dad, you know, it's kind of tough. Joe, he's kind of a jerk. Actually, he stole some cigarettes from his mom. He wanted me to smoke them, but I said no because I knew what a hard time you had quitting smoking, Dad. How about that? Is that so hard?
Dad, these questions are kind of hard to answer.
What is so hard to answer? About what sculpture are you making?
It's abstract.
Okay, that's good. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know you were even interested in abstract art.
I'm not. They make us do it.
But Dad, I mean, why is it all on us though? You know, what about you? How was your week? You know, who do you hang out with? Do you have a girlfriend? What have you been up to?
I see your point. So we should just let it happen more naturally, right? That's what you're saying. Okay, that's what we'll do. Starting now.
Boyhood was not my favorite movie of the year. I loved Boyhood, and my parents are divorced, and so a lot of this rang true for me, and the girl reminded me of me, and the Mason reminded me of my brother, and not that I need to be doing a review of the movie right now, but I think Birdman and Boyhood are both incredible achievements, and I think that Boyhood is going to be awarded in this category, and I think it's deserving to maintain this continuity in directing over a 12-year period is just amazing. And I love Richard Linklater, and I think he's way overdue, and maybe hasn't even been nominated that often because I think he's a lot. And so, the Grand Budapest Hotel, I'm gonna have to say it here, is my favorite of the year, if I didn't say it already. And I don't think it's in the running here, but I love Wes Anderson. Just get one day too. But I think this is going to be Richard Linklater's award.
And I think you make a lot of good points, especially about Linklater not getting a whole lot of nominations. Like, he's gotten some for writing when it comes to his Before trilogy, but that's really it. But you could probably say the same thing about Iñárritu here. I mean, he's had some potential hits with maybe a movie like Babel, and then maybe some before. I don't know if he had any nominations beforehand for 21 Grams and Amores Perros, his unofficial trilogy. Before I go into my thoughts, JD, what do you think here?
Yeah, I'm right along the same lines as Aaron in a lot of ways. I think it's going to come down to Birdman, Boyhood. I think it's going to come down to those two. Grand Budapest Hotel could be there. I don't even know why Foxcatcher is here, honestly, but it is here, even though it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. That's a crazy thing. But The Imitation Game, I'm perfectly fine with. That film overall was a nice surprise for me, and I did enjoy overall. I think when it comes to this category, though, it's hard to not pick Boyhood and Richard Linklater here because it's not just the gimmick. I mean, creating something over 12 years, one, it's really risky, especially when you consider the fact that technically, when you create contracts in the U.S., you can't go past 7 years. This was a 12-year project, so it was really, really risky. And I think he pulled off an incredible achievement because it's not just the gimmick, which I never felt in the film. It felt natural and it was seamless and it was fantastic. And I think the story that is depicted here really reflects real life. It's big moments like the graduation, and it's also the small mundane moments like the day after the graduation. And so to really encompass that entire spectrum of our life, which is incredibly relatable to a lot of people here in the U.S., especially if you're a middle-class white family, which I just tend to hail from. So there was a lot for me to really grab on with that film. I absolutely loved it. It didn't make my top 10, but it was very, very close, and a film I love overall, and I just don't see anyone else here. Now, if Inarritu did win for Birdman, I'm not going to be too upset, but I would personally give this award to Richard Linklater in Boyhood. Very deserved, I think.
And those are really good points. I guess I'm trying to refrain how much I want to give my thoughts here because a lot of my reasonings here are going to be very translatable to the Best Picture category because I feel like the front runners here are the exact same there, and I think for the exact same reasons in many ways.
Sure, yeah.
So I'll talk about this very briefly before I save all of my statistical analysis until the Best Picture category.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to come down to Richard Linklater or Alejandro G. Inarritu here. My personal pick would be Inarritu. I think what his technical achievement from a directing standpoint is the same reason why I think Emmanuel Lubezki should win for Best Cinematography. I think what he was able to, his vision of being able to achieve that and allowing that seamless creation to make it feel so consistent, I think, is beyond words. Whereas what Richard Linklater did, as great as it was too, it's more about patience, which is a very difficult thing to have in a film like this as well. I mean, I've never seen anyone be such a patient filmmaker like him, and we've even seen that with his plans for the Before trilogy.
Sure.
He did that on purpose by waiting 10 to 11 years between each film, and that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Who do I think's going to win? It could be either one of them. It's really 50-50.
I mean, Birdman has been getting a lot of awards love this year. So, I mean, I feel like early on it was a lock. Oh, it's Boyhood. Surely Richard Linklater is going to win. But with all this momentum Birdman's been carrying, it would not surprise me if Birdman takes, and you could argue even steals some of these major categories away from Boyhood.
And you're getting into where I'm having some of the statistical analysis going because if you look at the Golden Globes versus all the other awards wins that happen, like the Screen Actors Guild and Directors Guild and then the Critics' Choice Awards, Birdman started cleaning all those up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you're right. Beforehand, it was Boyhood all the way. That was the clear front runner. But then all of a sudden, Birdman and some of these other actors started cleaning up these other categories. And statistically speaking, if you win in those categories, you're going to win the Oscar. It's like an 80% chance that you're going to go and win the Oscar if you've won through the Screen Actors Guild, Directors Guild, Critics' Choice, and all those. That statistically proves you're going to end up picking the Oscar win like 80%, especially with the Best Actor category, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But having said that, I just don't think the Academy is going to pass up the patience of a 12-year project that speaks so beautifully about life that I think is easily, thematically, up the Academy's wheelhouse. I really think this is Richard Linklater's year, just by a slight margin, and I'm going to pick him.
And the thing with that is it's not, and I can't reiterate this enough, it's just not the gimmick here. What he created with the gimmick and how he constructed it is just, it's crazy. I mean, it's not an easy task to do, and he made something of a masterpiece out of it in so many ways. I mean, I can pick little things here and there about the film that I personally didn't like, but overall,
but it's not based on the directing.
Yeah,
your flaws have nothing to do with the directing.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. The direction of what he did and the way he was able to make you feel those little segments of that kid's age was just beyond incredible.
I think it's so much more than patience too. I mean, especially like you're working with child actors, you know, and you know, getting the performances out of the actors is just amazing. And there's a couple people who were only in a couple of the years, like the musician friend, and you know, it's not like they were around every year to
film
the movie. I don't know. I think it's just an unbelievable. achievement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like you, JD, it was in my top 20 of the year, and I love the film. It didn't. I much prefer Birdman, but having said that, if Richard Linklater does win, I think there's reasons to back up him winning is definitely justified, and I think it's a great achievement. It really is. So we talked a lot about that one, my favorite category. I'm very excited to see what happens, but I still think Linklater is going to take home here. But let's continue on by talking about this week's poll.
It's real bad. Okay? I don't like those numbers at all.
Just one poll? Those things aren't scientific.
Yes, they are. All this is science. This is math.
All right, so for this week's poll, we simply asked everyone what film you think is going to win Best Picture of the year, not which one you want to win, what one you think is going to win. And the poll results are kind of what I expected, and it's a very tight race.
Yeah.
Very tight race, winning by just a slight margin. Birdman with 35.5%, but right underneath that, Boyhood, 32.3%. So a very tight race. The obvious two frontrunners, I think you can definitely agree with here.
Yeah, sure.
But it looks like, probably based on a lot of the other wins that the Birdman's starting to clean up, I think we're starting to see more momentum for it, and that's probably why we see it winning this poll here.
And I bet you if we were to look at the Academy's votes too, I bet it's going to be something really close to that. It'll probably be like 2, 3, 5% points off, most likely.
I think this is one of the closest races I think we've seen in a long time, because you can always pick two films that are sort of the front runners.
Exactly.
But in this case, it could really be either one of them, because it's very close. I've never seen it this tight before. But having said that, I think that you got two great films that were being honored here, especially from the technical achievement as well. But just rounding out the poll results, we've got The Imitation Game at 16%, and then right underneath that, Whiplash at 6.5%. I don't see any of those winning. I think it's obviously going to be Boyhood or Birdman. But
it's going to be Boyhood or Birdman. And we appreciate everyone that voted or tweeted us back. We actually got quite a few tweets for Whiplash as well. So a lot of Whiplash fans out there. So I'm a little bit more surprised based off of that we didn't get more votes on the website. But ultimately, though, I think our poll does reflect what's going to happen. It's obviously going to be Boyhood or Birdman.
Yeah.
So, thanks everyone that voted.
Absolutely. And just to kind of add on that, I do think Whiplash is actually like the fan favorite of all the social media movie critics.
It really is.
If you go on YouTube and watch the YouTube Reviewers Movie Awards, I think that's what it's called, hosted by Jeremy Johns and the Schmoes Know podcast. Whiplash won Best Picture for their award show, and they actually ask all the viewers and fans to actually vote for that one. And so I think Whiplash is a real easy favorite amongst other people, and it's a great film. It was my number 2 of the year.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah. All right, well, coming up next, we're going to take a quick short break, and then we're going to return for the major awards left in the Oscar prediction show. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
I don't want to be a big man. I just want to fight with everyone else. Your masquerade. I don't want to be a part of your parade. Everyone deserves a chance to walk with everyone else while holding down a job to keep my girl around, and maybe buy me some new strings and her a night out on the weekend, and we can whisper things, secrets from our American dreams. Baby needs some protection.
Hey guys, I just want to pause for a quick second to say a huge thank you to those that are supporting the show. We really do appreciate it. And if you want to help support us, there's a couple ways you can help us out. One, if you go to our website at InSessionFilm.com, in our main menu, you'll see a tab that is labeled bonus content. And in there, we have some really, really awesome and fun bonus content for just a small donation of 99 cents. They actually are free to listen to on the site, but we run it on an honor system, and we do encourage and appreciate that small donation of 99 cents. And this week for our bonus content, for episode 105, we have Volume 4 of Nerding Out with DJ Valentine is going to be up. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about Neil Blomkamp and his move to the Alien franchise. It's going to be a lot of fun, so definitely go and check that out. Another way you can help us is if you go to the InSession Film store, you can get a fun InSession Film t-shirt or a mug or a tie or an iPhone case or something cool with our logo on it. And if you want an item that's not there, just let us know. Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or email us, and we'd love to make that happen for you. And as mentioned up at the top of the show, we are sponsored by Audible.com, which is a fantastic resource if you like audiobooks. And if you go to audibletrial.com/InSessionFilm, you'll get a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook just for signing up, and it helps support this show directly. So no matter what you do to support us, even a subscription to iTunes or a like on Facebook or a follow on Twitter is a huge way to help us, and we really, really do appreciate everyone's support.
Hi, this is Greg.
This is Chuck.
And this is Dan. And we are Talking in Circles.
Because the world needs another podcast, we are here as Geekcast Radio's newest edition. And as the title says, each week we get lost in conversation about a wide range of topics, including movies, comics, games, art, TV, and even occasionally sports.
We play games and discuss pivotal topics like who would win in a fight, the Kool-Aid Man or Tony the Tiger, and examine the hot-button issues of the world of geekdom.
We keep things fresh by taking timeless topics in new directions. We are simply three friends having a fun time talking about life's most fascinating foibles.
Stay connected with us every Tuesday on iTunes or at geekcastradio.com.
You're listening to the InSession Film Podcast. This is episode 105, and we are giving our Oscar predictions, which, as we said, has already happened when you're listening to this, so really you're checking to see how well we did. But that being said, guys, let's talk about the major categories. We're going to go into the acting categories here, as well as Best Picture here in just a little bit. But first, let's start off with Best Actress in a Supporting Role. And the nominees are Patricia Arquette for Boyhood, Laura Dern for Wild, Keira Knightley in The Imitation Game, Emma Stone for Birdman, and Meryl Streep, just because she was in a movie, I think, is why she's here. So, Erin, what do you think about this category?
Yeah, I think that Patricia Arquette has got this locked up. Sure. I don't know how much I have to go into it, like why I think she's going to win. Like, she just does so many ups and downs of motherhood, single motherhood. She keeps it for 12 years. Yeah. Like, her performance is just unbelievable. Way to honor her. And the only other person I would have actually nominated in this category is Emma Stone. The overlove for Meryl Streep, like, I think she's amazing, but come on now, like,
I know. It's literally just because she acted in a movie. That's the only reason she's here.
And I like Laura Dern. Like, she's a great actress. This is not the role to nominate her for. That was my personal opinion, and I don't know. And Keira Knightley and Laura Dern were both fine. Like, but I don't think there's much to talk about here. I think Patricia Arquette deserves it and is going to get it.
See, I think the big thing with this category for me is so many people consider this a weak category, and I just could not disagree with that more. Now, should Meryl Streep have been nominated? No, absolutely not. Maybe you can argue the same thing for Keira Knightley, although I think she was really good in The Imitation Game. But I feel like there are several others that I would have chosen to be in this top 5 that I thought were fantastic and were really good. And I'm not going to go into that here, but I do think that 2014 was a pretty good year for actresses in supporting roles.
I agree. I just don't think it's reflected here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they just picked the major nominated. They just picked the major nominated films to represent them. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. So all that being said, I do agree with you, Erin, though, that it's going to come down to Emma Stone and Patricia Arquette, of course, Birdman and Boyhood once again. And I think it's going to be Patricia Arquette for all the reasons you talked about. And the only thing I'll add to that is it's her movie as well. It is as much about her and as much about motherhood with this specific story anyway, as it was about the boy in the movie. And she was amazing. Like you were saying, the ups and downs, her emotional cathartic moments were really potent and really powerful. And she really displayed them incredibly well. And another thing to add on top of that, and I was reading some article about this where someone was praising Patricia Arquette. Oh, she's so brave for not having plastic surgery and gaining this weight and blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's sad to me that we live in a culture that we have to praise someone for being brave for not having plastic surgery. That is just beyond me. But despite all that, I think her performance was authentic. It was genuine. It was fantastic. I would certainly pick her for Boyhood.
Yeah, and I'm just going to leave it at that because I completely agree. I even agree even further with you, Aaron, by saying that Emma Stone and Patricia Arquette, the only two ones here that I would even prefer, that I would even pick to nominate in this category, at least along with other ones that I think were great that aren't even nominated. I think the rest of them were either fine, but nothing really that blew me away. I think Meryl Streep, and I said this many times, there could be a film of her taking for 2 hours and they'd nominate her. I mean, I feel like that's just the case.
Yeah.
But having said that, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to go to Patricia Arquette hands down. I think it's no contest.
I think a close third for me would be Laura Dern in Wild. She was really, really fantastic in that film as well. I don't think she has any chance of winning, but she would be a solid third place for me.
My problem with that is any actress could have played that role. Like, I don't think she brought anything special to it. That's my personal opinion.
I would disagree. I don't have time to really go into why, but I think she did add some nice emotional layers to that role, and maybe other people could have played it for sure, but I think she was fantastic in it and brought some nice moments with Reese Witherspoon that I think is deserving of her nomination anyway. So
I would have much rather seen Rene Russo get nominated or Tilda Swinton for Snowpiercer.
Me too.
Sure.
You picked the other two. I was, yep.
Yeah, exactly, which is why Meryl Streep and Keira Knightley can be replaced easily, as I mentioned. So I do think, though, that Laura Dern, Emma Stone, and Patricia Arquette certainly need to be here. All right, moving on. Let's move on to Best Actor in a Supporting Role. And I have some similar thoughts here to a degree anyway. The nominees are Robert Duvall for The Judge, Mark Ruffalo for Foxcatcher, J.K. Simmons for Whiplash, Ethan Hawke for Boyhood, and Edward Norton for Birdman. Pretty strong category overall, I think. Erin, what are your thoughts on this category?
I also feel like this one is so locked up, there's not much to say. Like, J.K. Simmons has won all the awards, and he's going to win this award. I think he's awesome. He's such a journeyman actor. To finally get a role like this to bring him the recognition that he deserves. He was amazing in this movie. This movie is amazing. And my only complaint about this, and it's not about him, is he couldn't do this alone. Like, it requires Miles Teller. And I think Miles Teller's generally been overlooked for his...
I would agree. Yeah, Miles Teller's great in that movie.
So, yeah, I don't have much to add. I haven't seen The Judge, but like people that I know didn't like the movie, and I feel like he might be a little bit, he might have got Meryl Streeped. He might have been just because he was in the movie.
Yeah. He's the Meryl Streep of this category,
Yes.
So
that's a new term that's going to be coined now.
Yeah, I invented something. Alrighty. So, those are my thoughts. Like, for these two, the supporting actor-actress categories, like, I think that of, the major awards, these two are the most obvious.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts, Brendan?
I have a prediction. And you may have to bleep me out a little bit here, JD. I'm not sure.
Oh, goodness. I've already done enough of this.
I know, but if anyone other than J.K. Simmons wins this award tonight, I'm predicting that Kim Jong-un is going to blow up the Kodak Theater and then destroy the world. I think you have an equal opportunity of that happening as J.K. Simmons not winning.
See, Brendan, I'm going to bleep that out just so no one has any idea what you say, and it could just be completely ominous and ambiguous.
Oh, that's no fun.
Just kidding.
Kanye, the only thing that might happen is Kanye will show up and say that it should have to Beyonce.
Yeah.
Which I think he might do for the Lego Movie not being nominated for Best Animated Film. He'll say it, and
exactly.
DJ on our Nerd and Out said the same thing. It'd be even funnier if Taylor Swift was presenting that award.
Exactly.
But no, this is J.K. Simmons' award. I mean, hands down, no contest. He's got it, and deservedly so.
Why do you suppose I just hurled a chair at your head, Neiman?
I don't know.
Sure you do.
The tempo?
Were you rushing or were you dragging?
I don't know.
Start counting.
5, 6, 7.
In 4, damn it! Look at me!
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, was I rushing or was I dragging?
I don't know.
Count again.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Rushing or dragging?
Rushing.
So you do know the difference!
Which is quite crazy to me because when I look at the other nominees with Mark Ruffalo, I think he's one of the best things about Foxcatcher. Ethan Hawke is as good as he ever could be in Boyhood, and Edward Norton was one of the strongest parts of Birdman. I love all three of those performances, and yet I agree with you that this is JK's award to lose, and he's certainly going to take it home. But what a really great category overall, despite Robert Duvall, as you guys talked about, is certainly being Meryl Streep here in terms of him getting it just because he's in the club, so to speak, because The Judge was not that great of a film, and Robert Duvall was good in it, but I wouldn't consider it award worthy by any means, and that's just kind of unfortunate. But the rest of the category is strong, so I'm not going to complain too much, and it'll be fun to see J.K. Simmons get up there and accept his award in his Jonah Jameson voice would be awesome. So anyway, fun category. Let's move on to Best Actress in a Leading Role. And the nominees we have are Rosamund Pike for Gone Girl, Marion Cotillard for 2 Days, 1 Night, Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything, Reese Witherspoon in Wild, and Julianne Moore for Still Alice. Erin, what do you think about this category?
Well, this was I was tipping my hat to this earlier. I think that Julianne Moore is going to win this award for all of the other movies she's ever made.
Sure. Yeah.
I have to confess, I haven't seen Still Alice. So I don't, it's really not fair for me to say because this is based on what other people had to say. I haven't, I did listen to the InSession Film where you talked about it, because JB Do was on, and I listen sometimes. But and I haven't seen 2 Days, 1 Night either. And I like Felicity Jones and Rosamund Pike and Reese Witherspoon were all really good in their roles. Gone Girl's not my favorite movie. I know I'm in the minority.
Yes, you are.
I know I'm in the minority. But it's mostly what I felt of the book, and sure. She's not nominated for adapting her own book, so I feel like I'm a little bit like justified. Anyways, I'm getting
that's a snub that's worth talking about, though.
Yeah. So I don't feel like super great about anyone in this category, and I feel bad about it as like the female voice on the podcast. But as far as predictions go, I think I'm going to do well on my own ballot sheet when I pick Julianne Moore to win.
I have very opposite thoughts of you. Before I get into that, though, Brendan, what do you think about this category?
I will agree with two things you just said, Erin. The first one being I also think Julianne Moore is going to win, hands down. I think it's, again, like with J.K. Simmons, it's her award to lose. I also think they're giving it to her this year because of all the work that she's done in the past, not so much for Still Alice. But what I will say is that I actually think she is the deserving one to win of these categories, unlike what most other people might think, or most people personally think. I loved her in Still Alice. I think it was one of her very best performances, and I loved Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl as well. I think up until Julianne Moore started picking up steam, Pike was really the front runner. But having said that, I loved Julianne Moore in Still Alice. I think she was the best part of that movie, one of her best performances, and I'd be very happy to see her win. So this is one I'm very happy about.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this category overall, and I'll disagree with you, Erin, in a lot of ways that I think this is a really strong category, especially if you would take out Felicity Jones and replace her with Jessica Chastain from The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, her version specifically. This category would be really great. I loved Reese Witherspoon in Wild. She absolutely carried that movie in tremendous ways for me.
I would agree. When I think about it, I agree with that.
Marion Cotillard is fantastic in 2 Days, 1 Night. It's just such an authentic, genuine portrayal of 2 days and her fighting for her job at her work. It's fantastic stuff. The film overall has some issues, but Marion Cotillard is really, really fantastic. And I do agree with you in a lot of ways, Brendan, that it's not just because Julianne Moore is going to be getting this because of her previous accomplishments. I think in a lot of ways she is very deserving. I think she is fantastic in Still Alice, although I've heard she gives a better performance in Maps to the Stars, but I think she's very deserving here. I would still pick Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl, though. I think what Rosamund Pike does in that film and having to essentially display two very different sides to her character, she does it seamlessly, very potently, just incredible. And she created a character that scared the hell out of me, especially as a husband. Just thinking about that character is frightening, and I think she did a great job. I was scared to death for Ben Affleck at the end of that film for a lot of reasons that a lot of guys have talked about on social media. So I think Rosamund Pike was just phenomenal in Gone Girl, but Julianne Moore is going to win, and I'm going to be perfectly fine with it. All right, guys, let's move on to Best Actor in a Leading Role, and we have for our nominees, Michael Keaton for Birdman, Channing Tatum for Foxcatcher. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Steve Carell? What? Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper for American Sniper, Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything, and Benedict Cumberbatch for The Imitation Game. Brendan, I vote that we do an X-Men Days of Future Past and go back in time and nominate Channing Tatum instead of Steve Carell for Foxcatcher.
You're missing one important one, too. I would totally agree with you. Steve Carell, I have no idea what he's doing here in the leading. It's a supporting performance. It's a supporting performance.
And he's not even the best supporting performance in that movie, if you ask me.
And his nose did all the acting. But having said that, let's also go back in time and twist the arms of the Academy to put Jake Gyllenhaal in here for Nightcrawler, who deserves to be here. In fact, I think gave a better performance than any one of these here.
And over Bradley Cooper, I would take Tom Hardy in Locke and Ray Fiennes in the Grand Budapest Hotel. So this whole category should be reshuffled.
And David Oyelowo for Selma.
Yes. How can I forget that? Absolutely. Oh, man.
You're revealing your racist true self. No.
I know. I nominate more white guys. But if I have to replace a white guy with a white guy, I would take Ray Fiennes and Tom Hardy. But David Oyelowo should be here. Absolutely. Take Benedict Cumberbatch, as much as I love the Batch. Take him out. Take Bradley Cooper out. Take Steve Carell out. And we'll nominate 3 others, including David Oyelowo. So that's my theory. Erin, any other thoughts on this category?
I agree with all of those thoughts, and I don't want to expand on it too much to say that I love Channing Tatum, and it's not just because I am a girl.
I love Channing Tatum too.
I think he's super smart about his career, really smart about directing his own path. And if he was going to get nominated, I mean, he has next year with Jupiter Ascending, but this was going to. This was
That's funny.
This is going to be one of the best chances that he gets. You know, he's not going to get too many roles, I don't think. But anyway, otherwise, I agree with you about Jake Gyllenhaal and Tom Hardy and David Oyelowo, and I think here we've got a 2-horse race, personally, between Michael Keaton and Eddie Redmayne.
Yep.
And I don't know. I like them both. I have a real tough time with this, and I have done one of these Oscar prediction podcasts before, like a few days ago. So I don't know if my mind has changed so much as I think about it. But I think that I would be happy with either of them winning. But I think who I really want to win and who I think is going to win is Eddie Redmayne, but that is really by a hair.
Sure.
But that would be my favorite, and that's who I think is going to win, because I think that's the only award of the awards that people care about that Theory of Everything is going to win.
Except score. I think it really has a good chance for score, but in general, I agree.
But nobody cares about score.
I care about score.
I know, but I was
in general, you're right. Though.
The big, the ones that are on at 10:30.
Sure. You're right. Though.
This is where it's going to win. Yeah.
Brendan, you got a winner?
I I don't think so. Because I really think, like you were just saying, Aaron, I really think this is between Keaton and Redmayne. But up until the Golden Globes beforehand, it was Keaton's award to lose. It really was. And then all of a sudden, Eddie Redmayne started winning the Screen Actors Guild, all the other awards, and everything else that came in between that. And all of a sudden, now people are seeing, okay, this guy might win. I think Eddie Redmayne was far and away the best thing about The Theory of Everything, the only really good thing about The Theory of Everything. I personally would like to see Michael Keaton win. So statistically proving, based on other wins, and here's some statistics for you guys, and I don't know if you guys know this, but no actor since 2001 has, I guess, won those major awards like the Screen Actors Guild and everything. No actor has won those and then not won the Oscar since 2001. They've all won all those awards. So the Screen Actors Guild wins and everything else, like all the other guild wins and Critics' Choice and everything like that, even the BAFTAs, every actor that has won those has gone on to win the Oscar. The only one that hasn't was back in 2001 with Russell Crowe for A Beautiful Mind, losing to Denzel Washington in Training Day. And I...
Let's not get started.
But regardless, Eddie Redmayne won all those major ones, so statistically proving he is going to win the Oscar. And yet I'm still picking Michael Keaton as my prediction to win. And I think really because I don't think the Academy is going to be able to ignore an acting performance from a movie that's essentially about acting, and a comeback performance from Michael Keaton that is so strikingly shocking. You look at Eddie Redmayne, who's got a huge career ahead of him, despite the greatness of Jupiter Ascending, which I think they might be able to ignore. I do think this is... I still think Michael Keaton's going to win this one. I have this hunch that it might still go to him, but watch out for Eddie Redmayne because he still might pick it up.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I want to say is if Steve Carell wins, I'm going to start a riot. That's the first thing.
You're going to start a purge. You're going to start the Lexington Purge.
If Nicole Kidman can win an award by acting through her fake nose, so can Steve Carell.
I just didn't think it was that great of a performance, though.
I'm just teasing. He shouldn't win here, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It's going to come down to Michael Keaton or Eddie Redmayne. And earlier I was kind of referencing, I was on the Do-Over earlier this week, and we were talking about 1989, and the guy that won in 1989 for Best Actor was Daniel Day-Lewis for My Left Foot, a film that, for me personally, is very similar to The Theory of Everything in the sense that your main character is a guy that is trying to overcome this horrific disease that he has, and both performances are striking and really amazing, but I also think both films in general are not that great. And I think Eddie Redmayne is essentially going to pull off the Daniel Day-Lewis of 1989. I think he is going to end up winning this, although I think Michael Keaton is very deserving, and he could very much win, and I wouldn't be surprised. But in general, though, I think they're going to give this to Eddie Redmayne. I think it's deserving, and I think it goes back to what you were saying, Aaron, and in the sense that this is going to be the one big award that The Theory of Everything is going to take home. And score is up in the air, even though I think it's a big category, and it's one that it could win. But in general, though, I do agree with you. I think Eddie Redmayne is going to take this home.
One thing I'll really disagree with you, My Left Foot is amazing.
I did not really care for that film overall, but
I love that movie.
Anyway, that's another debate for another time. The one thing that I hope doesn't hurt Eddie Redmayne is if any of the voting members saw Jupiter Ascending and was like, that's the same guy, never mind. Which wouldn't surprise me if people went that far. Yeah. Because it is the Academy after all.
Benedict Cumberbatch, on the other hand, is working hard. Like, there's no way he's going to win. But, like, Eddie Redmayne got married, and Benedict Cumberbatch is, oh, you're going to get married in the Oscar? I'll get married, and I'll get my girlfriend knocked up. And I'm going to get married on Valentine's Day.
Working hard.
He's working hard for his money.
Very nice. All right, guys, let's move on to the granddaddy of them all, Best Picture. And the nominees are American Sniper, The Imitation Game, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, Selma, The Theory of Everything, Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Whiplash, and unfortunately the list ends there, even though there's empty slots available. Mm-hmm. All right, Erin, what do you think about Best Picture for the 2015 Oscars?
My favorite movie of the year, I said it already, I'm in a minority, was The Grand Budapest Hotel. I love Wes Anderson. I saw that movie on a plane, so like on a teeny tiny airplane TV, like that's in front of your seat.
Interesting.
And I loved it so much. It is not going to win, but it was my favorite movie.
Yeah, it's great. It was in my top 10 of the year.
Yeah. I think this is really between Birdman and Boyhood. That's what we've been talking about throughout the whole podcast.
Yep.
And I think, people are going to have their TVs on till 11:30 or whenever this goes, because I don't think it's obvious who's going to win. I think this is really, really tough. I think that they're both incredible achievements in a different way. I think that I preferred Boyhood. I've talked about why Birdman should be winning other awards throughout this podcast. It's not because I like the movie. I like the movie, and I recognize it as achievement. But when I sit down to watch it, I'm not having the greatest time. And I know, Brendan, you love this movie, but it just Birdman did not do it for me.
That's understandable, though. It's not for everyone because it is it is a difficult watch. You definitely have to really concentrate and really work to watch it. I mean, I agree. I don't argue with that, but I personally loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And before I tell you who I think should win and who will win, a couple things that I want to say is that at the Toronto International Film Festival, Imitation Game was the viewer's choice. So that's it's not a jury award, but it's like the best picture of the people that see the movies. And I did not like American Sniper, and and the more that I think about it and talk about it, because I've talked about it on the Do-Over and with my friends, the more I talk about it, the less that I like it. And and I wish that The Two Holes and that movie were not here with some other things that I think are more deserving. So I want of Boyhood and Birdman. I want Boyhood to win of those two, but I think Birdman is going to win.
All right. What about you, Brennan?
Okay, so I agree it's going to be down to those two. I would prefer to see Birdman win. I think Birdman is I think Birdman's even better than anything I saw last year. I absolutely love this film. But having said that, and here's part of my reasoning, I do think Boyhood's going to win. But I wouldn't be surprised if you did see a director-picture split this year, which is very much possible. But I really don't think that's going to happen. I really think no matter what way it goes this year, the Best Picture winner is also going to share the win for Best Director. And the reason why is because I still think Best Original Screenplay is going to go to The Grand Budapest Hotel. Sure. And if that split happens between Best Director and Best Picture, the Best Picture winner will win Best Original Screenplay or Best Adapted Screenplay as well. They always do that. It'll always walk away with at least a screenplay win with a picture win if it doesn't get Best Director as well. That always happens. I've never seen that not happen. But having said that, I think it's going to go to Boyhood because I still think Linklater is going to win Best Director. The only way Birdman can win Best Picture is if I think it's going to win Best Original Screenplay while Linklater still gets Best Director. That's the only way I see it going down that way. But if I still think Grand Budapest Hotel is going to win Best Screenplay, then there's no way Birdman's going to win Best Picture. It's going to go to Boyhood then. And I'm going to go by default there. But again, statistically proving, it should go to Birdman based on the awards that it's been cleaning up recently, but it only gained that momentum because of those wins. Since then, it was Boyhood all the way. And also remember, Boyhood has the Golden Globe wins under its belt. Birdman even lost to Best Picture Comedy to Grand Budapest Hotel at the Golden Globes. It didn't even win that.
Very true.
But the Golden Globes, as far as a predictor, are fairly meaningless.
Yeah, that's true. It's hit or miss for sure.
The other awards, all the Guild Awards are much more important because those people actually vote. Whereas the Hollywood Foreign Press wants Angelina Jolie to come, so they nominate, her movies even though they're not good. So.
I would agree with that, but for some reason this year, I'm sensing consistency between the two. I just don't know what it, because normally I would absolutely 100% agree that the Golden Globes are a negative indicator for what's going to happen at the Oscars more than anything else. But for some reason, I'm just predicting some kind of consistency. I don't know what it is. But I really think this is the year for Boyhood still. I think it was the front runner. I think Birdman's really getting momentum because of what it's been doing recently, but I don't think that should be an indicator for how the Academy changes their. Maybe it should. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a hunch it's going to be Boyhood. I just do.
I agree with you in a lot of ways, and you make some interesting points, Brennan, in the sense that Grand Budapest is probably going to take home the Best Original Screenplay Award, which means that if Linklater wins Best Director, then there's a very good chance it's going to win Best Picture as well. And I think another reason the Academy may go that route, especially if we're talking politics, is there's a really high chance that Birdman is going to win in other categories like cinematography, and Michael Keaton possibly could win for Best Actor. So I think all that being said, it's obviously going to come down to Birdman and Boyhood. Sorry, Aaron, I'm more in Brendan's camp on this. I absolutely loved Birdman, and not just because of its cinematography. I think it's an incredible film that, for me, talks about insecurity. I think all the stuff that people are getting hung up with when it comes to what it says about Hollywood and superhero films, that's all secondary for me. First and foremost, for me, it's a guy that is struggling with his own identity and his insecurity because of that. And that to me was fascinating, especially when you add in the superhero stuff, which I loved, and what it says about Hollywood and wanting to create art and wanting to reveal this legacy is amazing. So I would personally pick Birdman if it was me. It was my number 3 of 2014, as it was with Brendan. And as much as I love Boyhood, I wouldn't pick Boyhood, although I think it's going to come down to those two. And because of the momentum that you're talking about, Brendan, because that seems to be where voters are swinging toward, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe for the first time we do see a split between director and screenplay and Best Picture.
Where are we going? Get you some coffee. Did I do something to disrespect you?
Not yet.
Look, I have a lot riding on this play.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. People know who I am.
Bullshit. They don't know you, your work, man. They know the guy from the bird suit who goes and tells coy, slightly vomitous stories on Letterman.
Well, I'm sorry if I'm popular, Mike.
Popular? I don't give a popular. Popularity is the slutty little cousin of prestige, my friend.
Okay, I don't even know what the fuck that means. So.
It means my reputation is riding on this, and that's worth a lot. Exactly. You. Yes. If this doesn't work out for you, you cough back to your studio pals and dive back into that cultural genocide you guys are perpetrating. The douchebag's born every minute. That was P.T. Barnum's premise when he invented the circus, and nothing much has changed. And you guys know that if you crank out any toxic piece of crap, people will line up and pay to see it. But long after you're gone, I'm going to be on that stage, earning my living, bearing my soul, wrestling with complex human emotions. That's what we do.
I don't know if it's going to go that route. I could see that happening because of that momentum and because of the love for Boyhood and because the Academy likes voting for Hollywood kind of things. That's just what they do. And Birdman certainly speaks to that. So I wouldn't be surprised. And at the same time, you have this thing that Richard Linklater did in 12 years. And again, going back to the filmmaking process, the Academy loves that. So it's really a toss-up. I could see it going either way. As far as my official prediction, though, I am going to swing Birdman here for Best Picture, even though I picked Linklater for Best Director and Grand Budapest for Best Original Screenplay. I know that's an oddball kind of thing to do, but that's what I'm going with. We'll see if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be very interesting. I'll tell you what, I will change my opinion on Best Picture if early in the show we see Birdman win Best Original Screenplay. I'll be like, okay, it's probably going to win Best Picture now. Sure. Then I'm serious. Sure. I will actually change my opinion then. Up until now, though, like right now, I still think Boyhood, Best Picture, Best Director.
And I think your guys' reasons for that are more than valid. I would not be surprised. And early on, I would say, especially before all of the award season got going, I would say Boyhood was the front runner. And it's hard to tell with Oscar voters. Once all that stuff starts going, they may sway votes. Like, who knows? And the one interesting thing, I don't think this will happen, but I think there's a small sliver of a chance that if Boyhood and Birdman, if they split votes enough and there's enough small votes for another film to slip in there, I think it's a small possibility it could because of the splitting of the votes. So,
which one do you think would take over if there's enough of a split between those two?
Well, it wouldn't be Whiplash, which would be my vote. My guess it would end up being The Theory of Everything or The Imitation Game, most likely.
See,
I feel like those two movies just cancel each other out.
They could, and maybe they would split each other. I don't know.
Personally, I think I actually wouldn't be surprised if this happens. I think the one movie that would win if those two frontrunners split each other out, I think it's going to go to American Sniper. And I think Bradley Cooper
so
would
disgusting.
I know, and I think Bradley
I don't know
Cooper
if it
would
will
win Best
because of
Actor
the
then.
controversy. I mean, there's so much
I think
negative
that's the reason
talk
why it
for
would
it.
win.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know.
What if they surprised us all, the votes were split, and Selma ended up winning and surprised the hell out of everybody?
That would be great.
I would jump on the roof of my apartment and just scream in joy and just of like, this is so randomly awesome.
Yeah.
It's like I would
probably not.
I'd give an MLK speech or something like that in downtown Nashville.
I guess in all honesty, actually, I overlooked the Grand Budapest Hotel. I think maybe that would be the best obvious choice because most likely it could land that original screenplay. There's a lot of love for Wes Anderson and that film specifically. So I think if they do split, it's probably the Grand Budapest Hotel, which I'd be okay with as well. So
yeah, another front runner. So yeah, it's a good point.
All right, guys. Well, that was a lot of fun. A lot of Oscar talk. We'll see tonight what happens. Erin, thanks so much for joining us. It was awesome having you on the main show this weekend.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I've been listening to you guys for a few weeks now because I knew I was coming on, and you've been complaining to each other about agreeing with each other.
Yes, we have.
So if you ever need someone to come on and disagree with you, I find I'm often the minority person when I'm talking about the movies.
Well,
so, anyway,
we'll definitely keep that in mind. And it's funny because Brendan and I, especially off air, we disagree all the time. So we're gonna build up to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Erin, tell us real quick once again, where can we find The Do-Over and you on the internet?
You can find the Do-Over at thedover.com. Do is spelled D-E-W after Jamie Dew, the host. So you can find it at that website. It's in the iTunes store or the podcast app. It's on Stitcher. It's on a network in Canada called Modern Superior. And you can find me on there, and that's pretty much it, unless you want to check out my Pinterest page for what dresses I thought were the best on the red carpet tonight.
There you go.
And yeah, that's it. So check out The Duel. It's a great little show.
Yeah, absolutely check it out. It's really a phenomenal show. And when Jamie was on, Brendan and I were talking about where we should petition The Do-Over to be the official selection process for Best Picture. So
yes.
So I think that's what we should end up doing. But anyway, that should do it for this week's show. Once again, just a friendly reminder to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/InSessionFilm. And you can follow us on Twitter at InSessionFilm and on Google Plus as well. Just search InSessionFilm. You can also check us out on YouTube, where you can hear all of our main podcasts there at youtube.com/InSessionFilm. And sign up for our monthly newsletter. February's will be out this week, and you can sign up on Facebook by clicking the newsletter tab or on our site at InSessionFilm.com/newsletter.
And for more thoughts on the films that we watch, you can also check us out on Letterboxd, which you can do at letterboxd.com/InSessionFilm. We also try to respond to every piece of email that we get, so you can email us at InSessionFilm@gmail.com. We'll try to respond to you there as well. And also be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and on Stitcher. While you're on iTunes, you can leave us a comment and review there. We'd appreciate some feedback on that medium as well. We'd greatly appreciate that. Also, you can check us out on our Listen Now page, which is on our website at InSessionFilm.com/listen-now.
And the InSession Film Podcast is supported by our super awesome listeners like you. Once again, if you want to help support us, just go to our website at InSessionFilm.com. You can click on our fun bonus content tab in our main menu to hear our bonus content for just a small donation of 99 cents. And once again, we're going to have a new segment of Nerding Out this week, so go and check that out. You can also check out the InSession Film store or just go to InSessionFilm.com/donate. And you'll see a bunch of information there on how you can help us. One thing that I would highly recommend is checking out our mobile app, where you can hear everything we do under one roof for just a one-time fee of $1.99. You can find the app on the Amazon Market for Android devices, the Windows 8 phone store for Windows devices, and the Podcast Box app for iOS devices. Now, those details are on the site at InSessionFilm.com/apps. As for the main show next weekend, we're going to be talking about the Will Smith vehicle Focus, or as I like to call it, the Suicide Squad prequel. So that should be a lot of fun. Before we get out of here, Erin, I'll toss it to you first. Any final thoughts on anything before we leave today?
Not much. I'll be watching every single second of the Oscars with my friends today, as I do every year. It's been a tradition of mine since Kevin Costner won for Dances with Wolves, and
nice.
I'm very excited. And I think we're going to be, unless the writing awards reveal a lot, I feel like we're going to be tuning in till the bitter end to see what's going to win.
What about you, Brennan? Any final thoughts? You watching tonight?
Of course. I'm actually one thing I'm hoping for is Rosamund Pike comes out of nowhere and.
And that's the big reason I want Rosamund Pike to win, is because he's hosting. So that would make for a fun moment.
May have to bleep me out because that's essentially a spoiler.
Yeah, that's a huge spoiler, but that would be a lot of fun to see them on stage because of that.
But I don't want to get the wrong idea that I hate Neil Patrick Harris, because I love Neil Patrick Harris.
Me too.
I think he's hilarious, but
yeah.
I just think that'd be funny to see some kind of alluding to what he and Rosamund Pike had in Gone Girl, which was just what the F.
And
yeah.
It's almost guaranteed, though, at the beginning, he's going to make some sort of reference to it, I'm sure, in his opening monologue, so... He's gonna have to.
He has to.
He has to.
Yeah, for sure.
So
he's like contracted by law to do that. He'll probably be arrested for breach of contract if he doesn't.
Exactly.
And then we won't have a host. We'll have to have Kanye come up here and give all the awards to like Beyonce and the Lego Movie.
Yeah. Exactly. So should be a fun show. I'll be watching, and I'll be watching the red carpet as well because of my wife, and she's gonna want to watch all that. So you can check me out doing that. We'll be live tweeting, so it should be a lot of fun. Make sure you stay tuned for our extra film this weekend, where Matt and I were going to be reviewing a fun little mockumentary called What We Do in the Shadows. I got to watch it last night. It was a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to watch that for this week's show, I would highly recommend it. Once again, next week we're going to be talking about Focus. Erin, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you guys next time on the InSession Film Podcast. For the entire version of our podcast, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher, or check us out online at InSessionFilm.com.